Thanks, Professor Fedeli, for your very nice and like an adventure novel. Your lecture.
No. I missed many points. Don't worry, it's more interesting.
Okay, now it is time for questions. We collect 2 or 3 questions before the answer.
I didn't quite understand. When is it that you can assume that the text, the manuscript derives from an earlier written text? This is the first thing which I don't understand. And then a very practical question. I did not quite understand the distribution of the leaves. I mean, there are some leaves in Paris, some leaves in England, some in Doha, and some in St. Petersburg.
Yes.
Yeah?
From 2 different
You want to answer? Yeah, please.
Thank you very much. My question doesn't concern the leaves themselves, but the earlier part of your lecture when you talked about how this all came into the news. Clearly, from what you described, the journalists did a very bad job. And I was wondering whether you or anyone else has somehow made this clear to journalists that they need to be more precise when they deal with topics that are so interesting but also so sensitive. Because if they do such a bad job with your research, how do we have any trust that they do a better job with other interesting scientific topics?
I had your same impression.
So you can answer both.
Okay, so about the written exemplar, studies about the psychology of scribes using Greek manuscript, Latin manuscript, so several traditions. So I based my work on these studies. So according to these studies, when you have a correction in scribendo, this is a sign of a copy from a written exemplar. I mean, from a written exemplar. Because if you are listening, you finish to write the word and then you correct. You don't stop in the middle of the word. If you stop, if you have the time of stopping, it could mean that you are copying from an exemplar. Yeah, but of course there are many studies about the subject, and I rely on them, and yes, I was quite convinced by this. And regarding the distribution, scattered leaves. I was in Birmingham in 2010, and when I was there, I saw the 9 leaves. And the 9 leaves were cataloged as Mingana 1572. So Mingana 1572, 9 leaves. But clearly they were not part of a single manuscript. They were 2 and 7 leaves, completely different. The script, layout, and the decoration between 2 surahs, the orthography and the number of lines, well-proportioned script and disordered script, so totally different. And I identified the 2 different manuscripts, 2 leaves and 7 leaves. And as I had previously seen other manuscripts, I matched together the 2 leaves from the 9 leaves, the 2 leaves as matching with Paris, and the 7 leaves as matching with St. Petersburg and Doha. And this is, I forgot to tell you, we know that Mingana bought the 7 leaves from an antiquarian dealer in Leiden in 1936. We can suppose that he bought the 2 leaves from the same antiquarian dealer, but from the documents from the archive, we have no more information about the provenance. But as the two leaves are matching with Paris, and we know exactly the provenance of Paris from Fustat, and also we know exactly the provenance of St. Petersburg, we can assume, of course, that the provenance is the same, so Fustat, yes. And about your question, media. After the first reactions, I gave other interviews, thinking I have to do something, I have to explain that I did not discover the manuscript. You cannot say that it's the oldest. Of course, it's very old, but you cannot say that it's the oldest. And the results were quite unexpected. I mean, I received a call from a journalist, and the interview was in Italian, so I'm sure about what I said. I have no doubt. And so, first question. Introduction. I would like to ask you something about your discovery. Reaction. Please don't say that I discovered the manuscript. It's not a discovery. The manuscript was in the library, cataloged as Mingana, blah blah blah. Maybe I spent time on studying it and so on. But in some articles, when I insisted when I insisted in saying it's not the oldest, don't say it's the oldest, because you cannot say that. Even using the 568 of the analysis, even if it's not correct to use the first year, it's not the oldest, because there are other analyses of other manuscripts in which the first year is different. When I insisted, they described me as cautious. So after this was my first experience with media. So after these tentatives I did, I thought, okay, there is no hope. I mean, personally, this was my experience. But yes, like you, I thought, how can I trust what I can read in journals? And the only thing I can add is that it's all in the headline, and so the university had no control over the headline at all before the press release. And I don't know if it was the journalist to choose the headline.
Thank you very much for all these clarifications. I have two questions. One is, was it you who sent the manuscript to Oxford for checking, or was it the university that inadvertently sent it to Oxford to be checked? And why was this particular manuscript chosen inadvertently? So the second question is, this date range that is given for the parchment itself, what do you think, what are your, based on your experience working with manuscripts, where do you place the text itself in terms of dates?
Okay, second answer.
Wait.
Oh, thank you. It seems that these folios are scattered in many libraries. I would like to know, how do you collaborate among, or each researcher is going by chance to find out everything. And then, can you, I don't know whether, tell us some results of such a research? I mean, comparing these old manuscripts with the current readings of the Quran?
Another one.
Thank you very much. You spoke about the red and the manuscript, that the designs might be claimed that they came after. But the separation between the verses, aren't they also come from later on Qur'ans? Because from what I know, that between the collection that is in France, the 328, there are the A, which there is no separation between the verses, and the C, there is separation between the verses.
The C is what I'm showing.
Yeah. What I know is that the separation of the verses came after. And my second question would be about the dating of the manuscript. So this carbon text, the C14 text, does it give you the date of the text or only of the paper, of the parchment? Thank you.
6 questions.
I don't know if I want. May I start from the end? Dating. Of course, with the C14 analysis, you can, scientists can date the time from now. Now is 1950 when the radiocarbon analysis were discovered. So you can date the time from now back until the death of the animal used for producing the parchment. So you can date the skin of the animal because the C14 analysis can be used only on organisms. And so you can date the skin, of course. You cannot date the ink, so there is a misunderstanding also about the ink and the parchment. Yes, of course, libraries don't like to cut a piece of ink for dating the manuscript, but it would be a nonsense because you cannot date ink. It's impossible from, at least now. Maybe they will discover something else. But you cannot date the ink with C14 analysis. You can date only the skin. So the results, of course, are the results of the dating of the skin. And we don't know exactly the time elapsed between the death of the animal and the production of the manuscript, so the writing of the text. So you cannot date a text. You should, maybe in future you can date the ink, but you will never date a text from radiocarbon analysis. So this was the last. And separations, you mentioned the 328A and C. The C is the matching fragment, so are the 16 leaves, so of course they have a separation of verses, but as far as I remember, the A, 328A, it has separations between verses. And
but does the separation come after? Previously they used to write the separation and then...
The early manuscripts we have, of course, they haven't a date, so I cannot tell you the oldest manuscript, but these undated manuscripts, they all have separations of verses. It's more common to have absence of separation, so no sign for marking one verse and the other one in the later 9th, 10th century manuscript dated. Yeah. But no, it's not a proof of, because all the undated manuscripts early, they have separation marks, yes. And the other, sorry, the red. I wrote only red, but I forgot the question.
No, it was just taking it as an example that some people claim that having red color is later, and the same claims are about separation.
Okay. So, scattered fragments. I mean, do you mean if libraries cooperate between them for rejoining the scattered fragments? There is a project, I mean, a single project, but it's a beginning. It's called Digital Mushaf, and the idea, they started just 1 year ago, and so it's a very new project and idea. And the idea is to put together, at least online, virtually, all these scattered fragments. But until now, they put online, of course, just one manuscript scattered in different institutions. But well, François de Roche published his book, the Codex Parisino-Petropolitanus, and he did the edition of the entire supposed Codex manuscript. So using the fragments from Paris, the 328A, and the fragments from St. Petersburg, and also the leaf from the Vatican and the Qur'anic collection in London. But just the edition, not the images. While it's interesting to put together the images in order to have the idea that to have an idea of how was the original manuscript. And then again, current readings, but I didn't hold. I'm so bad in taking note of questions.
Question?
Yeah.
Now, if you could find some differences, variants, compared with the current readings of the Quran.
What do you mean with current readings?
For example, in Egypt, we have an official reading of the Quran.
The work I'm doing and the work done by other scholars in the field is, of course, the analysis of the manuscript and so its readings. We discussed this morning about readings or variants. There is also a work in comparing the readings of the manuscript with the readings of the Qur'anic tradition. But until now, so just to give you an idea, if you have a certain number of readings, particular readings in a manuscript, maybe the 5% corresponds to the readings of the Qira'at, and not with one reader, but with different readings. So for this reason, it would be interesting to study the manuscript together in order to understand if there is a reading of the manuscript, a tradition, or if there was a scriptorium in which they wrote, in which there was a tradition. So I think that we haven't yet an answer. If we don't edit all the manuscripts, we cannot reply. Yeah. And who sent? You asked. Who sent? Only a library has the authority to send a piece of parchment, a piece of from the manuscript to a laboratory.
Yeah, but who decided?
Nobody else. So the library physically cut a piece. I don't know who exactly in the library, but the library cut a piece of parchment. So the library sent to the laboratory. Of course, I suggested to do that since the beginning, since 2011. But I do this in each library. When I visit a library, my first question is, have you ever thought about this and that? But then it's a decision of the library. But I was studying the manuscript and I try to convince them about the importance of the manuscript, not because it's the most important all over the world, but because probably it was the most important of the library. That's why.
And why this one?
Again, my first question is about dating all the manuscripts, but normally library, they cut just one piece from one manuscript, and this was the most interesting, yes. But yes, maybe here it's by chance that the laboratory dated this. Yeah.
Now I'm very curious to know how much of the Quranic text is present in those leaves in St. Petersburg, Doha, Paris and Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
That is my first question. The second one is, those leaves, are they consecutive or are they just parts of the Quran?
Okay, those, sorry, may I reply?
Yeah, okay.
Sorry. Those, do you mean Birmingham, Paris or Birmingham, Doha?
Those four places, those four.
The two.
Yeah.
Okay. All we have, all the early undated Quranic manuscripts, they are just fragments. And they should be called fragments. So we don't know if they were fragments from an entire copy. They were just fragments, probably. And we can just suppose the percentage in comparison with the totality of the text, of the Quranic text. This is your question. Just to give you an idea, but it's just a rough idea. If you write with the same style of the Birmingham Paris, the 18 leaves, if you write the entire copy, you will have about 200 leaves, maybe 220, I don't know exactly. But this is the idea that an entire copy written in that style is about 200, 220, 30. So if we have 18 leaves, you have an idea of the percentage. And the other fragment, Birmingham, St. Petersburg, Doha, please help me. So 17, 4. So here again you have an idea of the percentage. But with the Birmingham, St. Petersburg, Doha, it's more difficult to calculate the possible length of the text written in that style, because it's not a regular script. So you have in a page you have 20 lines, in another you have 33 lines. So you cannot be so precise with the number of leaves. The text in the Birmingham, St. Petersburg, Doha, you have a continuous sequence of the text, apart from two small gaps of one leaf and one leaf. Otherwise, the sequence is continuous. Sorry. So it's clear that there was a bifolio, and so the sequence is continuous apart those two leaves, one and then one. So we have text, gap, text, gap, text. The Birmingham Paris is not continuous, so you have part. The Birmingham, you have part of Surah 11 and then Surah 18, 19, 20. So you have two portions of the text, two continuous portions of the text.
I would like to ask myself a question. Can we expect any other real discovery similar to the one of the mosque, the great mosque of Sana'a, or more or less we are sure that no such a thing will happen again? Or is it possible? What do you think? This, and then the second question, towards the end of your presentation, you showed the piece by Professor Reynolds, and you said, okay, maybe this is not the best to try to connect this manuscript from Birmingham with the debate on the origins of Islam and the Quran, but it would rather be better best option to relate it to other manuscripts. Now, I'd like to ask you a little bit more on that point, if possible. With what we know now, so far in the field of early Quranic manuscripts, do we know enough as to, or what we know, the knowledge, it is relevant thus far to the debate on the origins of Islam, or what we know so far is not conclusive at all? Or
Short answer, no.
thank you.
The last one.
Yes, the last one. The short answer is no. We don't know enough for.
Might talk to the...
I'm very, very sorry. I apologize. Is that okay? We cannot say a lot from the manuscript. This morning I showed for example, the editions of Quranic manuscript. Until now we have editions of 6 manuscripts. Yes, now maybe it's different with the Corpus Qur'anicum project and Istanbul and so on. But the manuscripts are more than just these 10 manuscripts. So yeah, you can have an idea of the state of the field just with numbers. Yeah,
and can we expect other discovery, like the one of Sana?
Yeah, but one more thing about the situation, the state of the field. For example, if you think that schematics of the connection between the relationship between different readings of the Quranic text until now was based just on the Qira'at tradition and not on manuscripts, so nobody never did the work. You have another side. Discoveries. There are 2 kinds of discoveries. Discoveries of manuscripts which are catalogued as unknown. So there are a lot of manuscripts catalogued as unknown text. So when you identify this unknown text as something else, you have a discovery. And this was the case with the fragment in Birmingham. I discovered, not this one, but media were not interested to this discovery. And so it was a fragment in Birmingham, part of the Cambridge palimpsest. And I knew that there was somewhere a fragment bought by Mingana matching the Cambridge palimpsest. I found a notice about that, and I tried to trace this possible matching fragment. And it was, I asked the libraries, do you know anything about this? No. And then I had the idea, and I found the matching fragment, and it was very simple. It was covered as unknown Christian text. Yeah, of course. So when you read the unknown Christian text, you don't think that it's a Quran. So this is one of the 2 kinds. I mean, according to my experience, when you identify unknown manuscript as Quranic text or as anything else, not only Quranic studies. And then you have cases like the Sana manuscripts. Maybe that there are other cases, similar cases, even in the Great Mosque of Sana. And just 10, 20 years later, yes, in 2007, yeah, it was true. I mean, there was another mass of manuscripts there. So it is possible, yeah, of course. And then there are cases. There is another interesting case between the two. An antiquarian collector, an antiquarian dealer in somewhere north of France, in a very small village with his artifacts, and he also had a very precious Qur'anic manuscript, but he had no idea. And it was just, I think, 2 years ago, no more, that someone was there, and yes. So this is another kind of discovery between the two. Yeah.
And now it is time to close this lecture, this very interesting lecture. I'd like to remember you that the next lecture will be on 21st of April with the title Teaching Catholic Theology in the Light of Islam, Some Reflections on Contextuality and Comparability by Tobias Specker from Philosophisch-Theologische Hochschule St. Georgen, Frankfurt. Thanks to Professor Fedeli and thanks to you all. I wish you a brilliant and joyful evening.